It's not just about them. There are moments when someone enters your life and stirs something profound. You feel captivated, almost haunted. You think about them constantly. You analyze every word, every glance. You imagine futures or relive memories that barely even exist. It feels intense, faded, real, but here's the truth. It's not just about them. In fact, it rarely is. This obsession, this emotional charge is not a sign of love or destiny. More often, it's a reflection of your own unconscious. The other person becomes a mirror, a symbol, a projection screen for unmet needs, repressed desires, unresolved wounds, or unclaimed power within you. The phenomenon projection, when parts of your psyche that remain unconscious are cast outward onto someone else. You don't just see them, you see yourself, filtered through the lens of your inner world. You assign them meaning far beyond their reality. They become larger than life because they hold pieces of you that you've forgotten, denied, or buried. Sometimes we obsess over someone because they represent freedom, or safety, or danger, or the parent we never had, or the person we wish we could be, or the self we are too afraid to embrace. They touch the archetypal realm of our psyche, the deeper stories we carry about love, identity, abandonment, power, and worth. In this way, obsession is a doorway. It is not something to be judged or shamed. It is something to be explored, decoded, honored. Your psyche is trying to tell you something, not about them, but about you. Something you need to see, to feel, to remember. The more unconscious the projection, the more intense the obsession. And yet, if we are courageous enough to pull back the projection, to do the shadow work, to feel the grief underneath the fantasy, then something beautiful can happen. We begin to reclaim what we've given away. We realize that the qualities we admired in them, strength, mystery, kindness, wildness, already live within us. We begin to integrate, to mature, to differentiate truth from illusion. And in doing so, we come home to ourselves. Obsession is often a cry from the soul, a longing not for a person, but for wholeness, for self-reunion. So if you're caught in the web of longing, if your thoughts won't let go, if you keep looking to someone else to make you feel real or worthy or alive, pause, breathe, ask, what does this person represent to me? What am I really seeking through them? You may find that the answer was never in their hands. It was in yours all along. This journey is not about blaming others or fixing them. It's about reclaiming your projections, your power, your presence, because the obsession isn't proof that they are your destiny. It's a signal that something deep within you is ready to be seen, ready to be healed, ready to return home to you. Projection, seeing yourself in them, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. But this isn't just about irritation. It's also about infatuation, obsession, and admiration. Because when we fall for someone deeply, inexplicably, overwhelmingly, we may not be seeing them at all. We're seeing a projection. Projection is the unconscious act of seeing our own inner material, our desires, wounds, fears, or unclaimed qualities, reflected in someone else. It's not intentional. It's not manipulative. It's a mechanism of the psyche, meant to bring what's hidden inside us out into the light. When someone captivates us beyond reason, they've likely become a screen onto which we've cast our inner film. That magnetic person, they might mirror a piece of your soul that you've rejected, that emotionally unavailable lover. They may echo a parent whose love you craved, that exciting new crush. Perhaps they reflect a life you're too afraid to live. You're not in love with a person. You're in love with what they symbolize. This is why the emotions feel so disproportionate, why their absence feels like a wound, why you can't stop thinking about them, because it isn't just about them, it's about you, your longing, your unlived potential, your unresolved pain. Projection turns people into mirrors, but mirrors can only reflect what is already there. And until we become conscious of what we're projecting, we will continue to chase others in hopes of finding ourselves. This is not to say the other person is an illusion. They exist, but what we see in them is filtered through the lens of our own psyche. And when that lens is clouded by unmet needs or unhealed wounds, our vision becomes distorted. This is why relationships based purely on projection are often unsustainable. Eventually, reality pierces the fantasy. We begin to see the flaws, the ordinariness, the mismatch, and it feels like betrayal. But in truth, it's awakening. The spell breaks, not because they changed, but because we're beginning to see more clearly. But projection is not a mistake, it's a message. It shows us what we've disowned, what we long for, what we must integrate. It offers us the chance to reclaim lost pieces of ourselves. That wildness you admire, it's yours. That emotional intensity you can't handle, also yours. That charisma, mystery, strength, vulnerability, it lives within you, waiting to be recognized. So when someone stirs something deep in you, pause. Ask, what am I seeing in them that I have not yet owned in myself? The moment you ask, the healing begins. Because projection isn't about losing yourself in another. It's about finding yourself through what they awaken. To see clearly is to love truly, and to love truly you must start within. The anima and animus connection, that within every man lives a hidden feminine image, the anima, and within every woman a concealed masculine figure, the animus. These are not just abstract ideas. They are powerful psychological forces that shape how we relate, desire, and love. When you feel magnetically drawn to someone, when their presence stirs something ancient, almost mythic within you, it may not be about who they are, but about who they represent. They may be a living projection of your inner opposite, the anima or animus. The anima is the soul image in a man. She is feeling, receptivity, intuition, creativity, emotion, and depth. When a man has not integrated his anima, he might project her onto a woman, seeing her as enchanting, mysterious, emotional, even divine. He becomes captivated not by her reality, but by the mirror she holds to his inner feminine. The animus in a woman is her inner logos, thought, reason, action, structure, and power. When she has not made the animus conscious, she may project him onto a man. He appears wise, dominant, forceful, or intellectually brilliant. He seems like her guide or her captor. This inner dance is rarely peaceful. It is electric, confusing, and deeply emotional. That's why falling for someone often feels like destiny. In Jungian terms, it is not in the romantic sense, but in the psychological. The anima and animus are agents of individuation, pulling us toward the integration of our full self. But here's the paradox. The person we fall for is not our soul. They are a symbol. They carry the face of the part of us we've forgotten. And so we project divinity where there is humanity. We place sacred weight on someone's shoulders, and then feel devastated when they fail to carry it. We call it love, but it is longing, longing for inner unity disguised as romantic obsession. When you feel deeply attracted to someone, especially in a way that feels irrational, spiritual, or even cosmic, ask yourself, what do they awaken in me that I've ignored? Do they represent a softness I've denied, a strength I haven't yet owned, a freedom I crave? To fall in love with your anima or animus is not wrong. In fact, it is a call, a summons to retrieve what you've exiled in yourself. But you must eventually withdraw the projection, not to stop loving, but to love truly, to see the person, not the image, to honor the inner work, not just the outer relationship. Because when you integrate your anima or animus, something profound happens. You no longer chase someone to feel complete. You realize you already are. The inner marriage begins, and from that union, real love can finally emerge. Not as fantasy, but as presence, as wholeness shared, not sought. emotional complexes, the unhealed past when a person lives rent-free in your mind, when you replay your encounters with them over and over, analyze their words, dream of them at night, it's often not them you're obsessing over. It's something deeper, older, and hidden. A complex is a cluster of emotions, memories, and unconscious associations centered around a painful experience, usually from childhood. And when someone in the present activates that wound, they don't just stir up feelings, they awaken the entire emotional history behind it. You may think, why am I so fixated on this person? But what you're really feeling is the reactivation of something unresolved, abandonment, shame, rejection, betrayal, or longing that never had a voice. For example, someone who reminds you subtly or not of a parent who was emotionally unavailable may trigger a deep desire to be chosen, seen, or saved. Your adult self says you're interested in them, but your inner child is crying, "Please don't leave me again." This is why the connection feels overwhelming. It's not just about today, it's about yesterday. The person becomes a mirror, reflecting back the emotional landscape you've spent years avoiding, and here's the catch: the more unconscious the complex, the more powerful it becomes. You might idealize this person, obsess over their attention, feel intense highs and lows, but these aren't signs of soulmates. They are signs of an activated psychic wound trying to come into consciousness. Jung taught that complexes behave like autonomous beings within the psyche. They have their own voice, their own emotional charge, their own agenda. You might know someone is not right for you, but still feel magnetically drawn. That's the power of a complex. It hijacks reason, overrides logic, and plays out old emotional scripts in new bodies. But this isn't a curse, it's an invitation. When someone awakens a complex in you, it's a chance to heal. Ask yourself, what am I really feeling around this person? When have I felt this way before, long before they entered my life? What part of me is crying out to be acknowledged, loved, or released? If you trace the emotional thread, you'll often find a child, younger, more vulnerable, holding pain that was too overwhelming to process at the time. This obsession, this pain, this confusion, it is that child's voice asking for closure. And healing doesn't always come by changing the relationship. It comes by listening to your own soul, by feeling the grief that was buried, by giving language to the unspoken, by bringing into the light what was once held in shadow. So if someone haunts you, don't just ask, what do they mean? Ask, what are they awakening in me? Because the true liberation is not in forgetting them, it is in remembering yourself. And once the complex is healed, the obsession fades, not because the person disappeared, but because you are no longer seeking resolution through them. You have reclaimed the missing piece within you. Synchronicity, is it fate or meaning? You think of someone, and they call, you dream of them, and bump into them the next day. Their name shows up in random places, a song reminds you of them. Again and again, the world seems to whisper their presence back into your life. Coincidence, or something more, a meaningful coincidence where inner experience and outer reality align without any causal connection. It's not magic. It's not superstition. It's the universe speaking in symbols, mirroring your unconscious state through the events that unfold around you. When someone appears repeatedly in your thoughts or in your outer life, it's often a signal, not an accident. The psyche is drawing attention to something essential. This person may represent an unresolved feeling, a part of yourself seeking expression, or a deeper transformation that is underway. And life itself subtly and mysteriously reflects that back to you. You may feel haunted, confused, or even enchanted by their presence, but the true question is not, why do they keep showing up? It's, what is life trying to show me through them? Synchronicity blurs the line between self and world. It suggests you are not a separate observer of reality. You are an active participant in a symbolic field where every moment carries meaning. And when someone becomes a repeated symbol in your life, they are part of that language. Sometimes they are a mirror for an inner shift, a signal that you are on the edge of a breakthrough. Other times they are a catalyst, someone who stirs the depths of your soul, not to be held on to, but to awaken what has been sleeping. You may be tempted to interpret this as fate, to believe the universe is guiding you toward this person as your destiny, but Jung would offer caution. Synchronicity is not about clinging to the person. It's about listening to what the experience is asking you to become aware of. Ask yourself, what do I feel when this person enters my thoughts or appears in my life? What themes or emotional patterns are activated? What part of me comes alive or trembles when they're near? Synchronicity often arises at key turning points in life. It's as if the unconscious joins hands with the universe to guide you, not toward attachment, but toward awakening. So when someone keeps showing up again and again, don't only ask, is this fate? Ask what inner transformation is trying to unfold, because ultimately synchronicity is not about the other person, it's about you. It's about a sacred pattern emerging, inviting you to see the deeper order beneath chaos, the symbolic meaning behind the mundane. And when you honor that pattern, something shifts. You stop chasing. You start listening. You begin to walk through life not as a seeker of signs, but as the one who understands the language they speak, because the signs are not leading you to them. They are leading you back to yourself. The pain of unfinished energy. There are moments in life when someone enters your world like a storm. Unexpected, overwhelming, unforgettable. And just as quickly they're gone. Maybe it was a breakup. Maybe it was something that never fully began. Maybe there were words unspoken, feelings unexpressed, or endings that came too soon, but the emotions remain. You find yourself thinking about them long after the story has ended. Not because you're weak, not because you're obsessed, but because there is unfinished energy, a psychic charge that hasn't been resolved. Understood the psyche as an energy system. What is not processed, completed, or consciously integrated remains active within you. It doesn't simply disappear at circles, it lingers, it pulls your attention over and over again. Sometimes the obsession isn't about love, it's about the incompletion, the open loop, the lack of closure that left you suspended between what was and what could have been. Maybe you never got the chance to speak your truth. Maybe they left without explanation. Maybe it all happened too fast, too raw, too intense, and now your nervous system can't relax. The story in your body hasn't ended, even if the external relationship has. This is not just emotional pain, it's energetic pain. It's your psyche's way of asking, what do I need to resolve? What part of me is still waiting to be seen, expressed, or released? The trouble is, we often try to resolve this pain by going back. We replay the memories, we analyze their behavior, we imagine different endings, we long for a conversation that might never happen. But the truth is, the energy does not complete through them, it completes through you. The pain you carry is not just about them. It's about the part of you that was activated in their presence, the part that felt alive, exposed, broken open, that version of you, the one who loved, who hoped, who hurt, deserves your attention. You may never get the closure you think you need, but you can give it to yourself. You can write the unsent letter. You can cry the tears you suppressed. You can speak the truth you were too afraid to say. You can acknowledge the beauty and the sorrow of what you felt, and let it move through you, not define you. Unfinished energy becomes obsession when it's ignored, but when it's honored, it transforms. It becomes wisdom. It becomes fuel for your growth. It becomes a story you carry with grace, not a wound you reopen every night. So if someone haunts your mind, ask not just why can't I forget them. Ask what within me is still waiting to be felt. Because the pain is not punishment, it's a signal. It's asking you to complete the circle, to close the loop, not by erasing the past, but by integrating its energy into your becoming. and when you do, you will find that the ache begins to soften. Not because you let go of them, but because you finally came home to yourself. The role of fantasy and illusion often, what haunts us isn't a person, but a fantasy, a carefully constructed image our mind has created around them. Not who they are, but what they represent. We're not in love with reality, we're in love with a story, warned that the more unconscious the fantasy, the more it possesses us. That is, the less we recognize we're dreaming, the more power that dream holds over our thoughts, emotions, and decisions. Think of it, the one who didn't love you back becomes in your mind the only one who could. The person who left suddenly transforms into your twin flame, your karmic destiny, your missing piece. We fill the gaps of the unknown with projection, idealization, and narrative. We imagine their inner world, their intentions, their feelings, most of which remain a mystery, but the fantasy feels real. Why? Because the fantasy isn't random. It emerges from within you. It's born from unmet needs, unhealed wounds, or longings you've yet to consciously own. That person becomes the canvas onto which your psyche paints its deepest hopes and fears. You don't just see them, you see your animus or anima, you see the part of yourself you've lost or long to integrate. And the illusion is seductive. It can offer comfort in absence, certainty in confusion, beauty in pain. It can feel more vivid than real life, but it also traps you, because you're no longer responding to what is. You're reacting to what you wish was true. Fantasy distorts memory. It polishes the good moments and erases the red flags. It keeps you stuck in mental time travel, reliving the past or rehearsing a future that may never arrive. You start to believe that closure, peace, or even your wholeness depends on them coming back, understanding you, choosing you. But the fantasy has nothing to do with them. It's your soul trying to speak. It's showing you what you crave, what you lack, what you must develop within yourself, the love, the safety, the passion. It was never about them giving it to you. It's about you remembering that it exists within you. To break the illusion, you must confront the fantasy. Ask yourself, what am I really holding on to? What do I believe they can give me that I can't give myself? Who do I become in their presence? And why do I feel I need them to be that version of me? Be honest, because illusions only lose power in the light of truth. You may discover that the person wasn't who you imagined, or that what you thought was love was really a mirror for your own emotional hunger. And that's not failure, that's awakening. When you dissolve the fantasy, grief may come, but so will clarity, freedom, a return to reality, not as punishment but as liberation, because fantasy keeps you asleep. Only by waking from the illusion can you meet the real other, and more importantly, the real you. Obsession as a call to transformation, obsession can feel like a curse, a maddening loop, an emotional prison you can't escape. But Carl Jung invites us to look deeper. What if this mental fixation isn't a sign of weakness, but a summons from the soul? When someone occupies your thoughts day and night, long after the connection is gone, or never fully formed, it may not be about them at all. It may be your unconscious trying to speak, through longing, through ache, through the relentless return of their image. Obsession is rarely meaningless. It is a symbol, a psychic message with energy behind it. That person or your relationship with them may be the outer form through which an inner transformation is being called forth. Ask yourself, why now? Why does this fixation emerge at this point in your life? Is it really about love, or is it about awakening? Often, the person you can't stop thinking about reflects a part of you that is dormant, forgotten, or repressed. They may stir something you've denied: desire, creativity, freedom, emotional depth, or even spiritual yearning. They are not the source. They are the catalyst. The obsession, then, is not just about attachment, it's about activation. It's your psyche saying there is more to you than you've allowed yourself to be. It's pointing to a transformation waiting beneath the surface, and the intensity you feel, that's the energy needed to break through the old self. You may find that the obsession peaks when you're at a psychological threshold, when your current identity no longer fits, when you're about to grow, when your soul is demanding more. But instead of moving forward, you attach that energy to a person. You mistake the call to evolution for a call to reunion, and so you wait for them, you fantasize about them, you try to solve the obsession like a riddle, believing that if they return or if you get closure, you'll finally feel peace. But the truth is, it's not about them returning, it's about you returning to your soul, your path, your power. The obsession is a signal, not a destination. What you resist persists. What you embrace transforms. If you resist the transformation this energy demands, if you cling to the fantasy or fight the fixation, it will persist. But if you turn inward, if you ask, what part of me is this calling me to reclaim, then the obsession becomes sacred. It becomes the fire of rebirth, and when you honor that fire, everything changes. You begin to shift the focus away from them and toward what your soul actually craves: depth, integration, authenticity, a life that is emotionally, spiritually, and psychologically whole. So if someone won't leave your mind, don't just ask, why can't I stop thinking about them? Ask, what transformation is this energy asking of me? Because sometimes the person isn't the answer, they are the doorway. Reclaiming your power obsession drains you, not just of time or emotion, but of your very life force. Every thought you send outward, every fantasy you replay, every hope you attach to someone else, is energy leaving your center. Slowly you begin to feel ungrounded, scattered, even lost. But Carl Jung reminds us, the key to healing is within, and it begins with reclaiming your projections. When someone becomes the focal point of your thoughts, it's often not because of who they truly are, but because of what you've placed onto them. You project, you assign them roles: the soulmate, the rescuer, the mirror, the one who will finally understand you. These projections are born from unmet needs, old wounds, unconscious desires, and when you're unaware, they take over. They distort your perception. You no longer see the person. You see your longing. But here's the truth: what you see in them lives within you. The moment you begin to pull your energy back, to withdraw your projections, something powerful happens. You stop expecting them to complete you. You stop handing them your worth, and you begin the sacred task of integration. Integration means turning inward. It means asking, what am I really seeking from them? What part of me feels unloved, unseen, or unexpressed? When you answer that honestly, you begin to meet yourself with compassion. Maybe you projected strength onto them because you've denied your own power. Maybe you saw safety in them because you've abandoned your inner child. Maybe you felt they were your destiny because you feared creating your own. The more you become conscious of these patterns, the more you liberate yourself from them. You no longer need them to carry the parts of your soul you once disowned. You begin to embody those qualities for yourself, and as you do, your energy returns. You become centered, whole, empowered. You begin to see the person not as a savior or villain, but as a mirror, someone who appeared to awaken something dormant within you, someone who stirred the sacred chaos that leads to growth. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Reclaiming your projections is the act of making the unconscious conscious. It's how you stop living by default and start living with intention, and with that, peace returns, not the peace of avoidance or numbness, but the peace that comes from clarity. You see your part, you honor your feelings, and you choose to reclaim your power, not by cutting them out of your heart, but by returning yourself to your center. You stop orbiting around someone else's gravity. You become your own sun, and in that radiant stillness you remember you were never missing something outside of you. You are only being called to remember who you already are: whole, enough, free, final thoughts. It was always about you. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. And yet, when the smoke clears, when the fire of obsession begins to die down, you're left with something sobering, a truth you might have resisted at first, but one that brings profound clarity. It was never really about them. It was always about you. The person you couldn't stop thinking about was not the destination. They were the catalyst, a mirror, a messenger of your own unconscious needs, yearnings, and forgotten potentials. Through them you were shown the places within yourself that were still unclaimed, still aching to be known. Obsession is not love, it is the soul's cry for integration. It is intensity misplaced, creative, spiritual, and emotional energy that has not yet found its rightful home within. When you finally reach the end of the loop, when you no longer scan every moment for a sign, when your thoughts no longer orbit their memory like a dying star, you will realize something breathtaking. You have returned to yourself. The journey of projection, desire, and longing has served its purpose. You've retrieved pieces of your psyche that were hidden in the shadow. You've come to understand what you seek in others is often what you've forgotten in yourself. That longing for connection, it was your soul crying out for reconnection with its own essence. That deep admiration, it was your inner gifts seen through the eyes of another, that ache for closure. It was a call to forgive not them, but you, for abandoning your needs, your intuition, your truth. As the obsession fades, something else emerges, wisdom, gratitude, peace. You begin to see the person clearly, not through the haze of projection, but with the eyes of awareness. You may still love them, you may still wish them well, but the grasping is gone, the hunger is gone. You no longer need them to complete a story that was never theirs to finish. The soul's journey is always toward wholeness. And every relationship, especially the ones that break us open, are vehicles for that sacred journey. The person was a lesson, a spark, a doorway, but the path was always yours. When you stop asking why did they leave, why didn't it work, why can't I forget them, and start asking what part of me is waking up, that's when everything shifts, because the truth is, they mirrored your longing, they mirrored your light, they mirrored your wounds, and they mirrored your becoming. You were never lost in them, you were finding yourself through them. So let them go, not with bitterness but with reverence, not with regret but with understanding. Because this was never just a story of heartbreak or obsession. It was the story of your homecoming, and now, finally, you're home.